Hello. So a question I often get asked as a runner and as a running coach is, Moni, what shoes should I be wearing? And anyone that knows me knows that I absolutely love shoes, specifically running shoes, and I love picking them all apart. I love knowing what they're all made of, so that we know how to find the best product. So I'm quickly going to give you a little introduction into what different shoes can do and what they're useful for. Okay, so step one. The racing flat. Okay, so these are my racing flats. I only use these for race day. These are for road races. As you can see, the outsole doesn't really have any big lugs on or anything, so you wouldn't want to be running in the mud in those, otherwise you'd be slipping all over the place. I have done it once before at parkrun. I wrongly wore these shoes and it was more like ice skating than running. That was a critical mistake that I made. But essentially, racing flats have a midsole, which is this material here, very lightweight springy material, have an outsole, which is this bit here, and then we essentially just have a piece of material on top, very, very lightweight. You can sort of, I don't know if you can see my hand through this, it's very, very small, close-knit material, and within inside here we have a carbon plate. Now what that does is, don't know if you can see, but I can't bend that shoe. It gives it rigidity, okay? And why that is good is when I'm running and I step down, as my foot presses into the ground, it pings back and gives me that return of energy. So this is a racing flat. Number two, training shoe. I use this for tempo runs and for workouts. This shoe is kind of like the little sister to your racing shoe. So again, you can see it's got outsole, road outsole, but again, I wouldn't want to go on the trails in this one. Got midsole material, again, very light, spongy. I don't know if you can see, this one almost looks like polystyrene. This company here, Saucony, their midsole is called Power Run PB foam. It's one of the, in my opinion, one of the best foams on the market, but it does look a bit like polystyrene. Now, within here, we have got a plate. It's not a carbon plate. It's a much smaller plastic plate, but it does still have, as you can see, a bit of pushback for when I am doing my training sessions. Again, you've got a very thin upper that you can see through, but a little bit more padding, a little bit more comfort when it comes to running compared to your racing shoes. And as I say, these are what I use for when I'm doing sort of interval sessions, tempo sessions out on the road during the week. Next up, I have got my everyday running shoes. I'm so sorry for how dirty and muddy they look. I definitely need to buy some new ones at the minute. Hoka, if you're listening to this, I'm in desperation. I'm running lots and lots of miles for charity. Please, I love Hoka shoes. I make lots of people buy Hoka shoes. In fact, I'm thinking of getting a new dog and calling it Hoka. That's how much I love Hoka. I will even get Hoka tattooed on me if Hoka were to sponsor me, which is not going to happen, but wishful thinking, Monica. So, everyday running shoes. These, essentially, are the everyday sloggers. These get me all of my miles in, these easy recovery runs, but I will say these specifically, so these are the Hoka Clifton 9s, these have the ability to also pick up the pace. If I sort of am into a run and think, you know what, I want to do a bit of a speed session in the middle, I might do a couple of hard efforts. These shoes are fantastic for adapting to those harder paces, but equally they're very, very comfortable for when I do just want to plod along and do some recovery miles. In terms of what are these made of, again, you've got outsole, which you can see I've pretty much worn down completely, hence why I need new ones. You've then got midsole again. These shoes do not have a plate in at all. They're just sort of an old-fashioned everyday running shoe. They've then got sort of a thicker upper compared to the other two I've shown you so far, much more padding around the heel. These in particular don't have any stability built into them, but one thing that you can have in everyday running shoes is a stability mechanism such as a heel clip or a J clip, but I will talk more about stability shoes in a different video. You shouldn't really, in my opinion, pay anything more than about £120, £130 for an everyday running shoe, and as I say, these are the Hoka Clifton 9s. Last but not least, I am going to show you guys a trail shoe. So these are different to all the other ones when it comes to outsole. So as you can see, these have got quite aggressive lugs. The lugs are these bits, the grippy bits. This in particular outsole is Vibram Mega Grip, who are fantastic outsole when it comes to trail running. Very, very good for gripping onto sort of like muddy terrain or rocky base. I've run all sorts of races in these. I've run in the mud, I've run when it's wet, when it's dry, all over the place. They're fantastic and they clean up really, really well for a trail shoe. Now these are the original Hoka Tecton X. The reason it is called Tecton X is that they do have a X-shaped carbon plate within them. Traditionally, trail shoes did not have carbon plates into them until about 2 years ago, of which Hoka were one of the first companies to do it, and these were one of the original models. Now, what that gives you, a bit like the racing shoe, gives you a bit of rigidity, which is what you want for speed, but also the second benefit you get when it comes to a trail shoe is that it also gives you a bit of support for that uneven ground. So if you're going to hit big rocks or anything along your route, it keeps your foot nice and planted. In terms of the midsole, I'm pretty sure this is the Flight Foam, which is what they use on the Clifton. And then upper-wise, it's a thin material, a little bit of support around the ankle, but again, quite minimal. Only addition you also get on trail shoes is this, a little bit of a toe counter, just to give you a little bit of protection for any tree roots or anything that you might face as you're running downhill. These are the shoes that I would use to run, as I say, sort of like wintry times along the canal, if I'm doing some sort of trail ultra run. I also really like taking these on holiday because these do really well in things like sand or sort of like dirt paths, and they're very, very lightweight for a trail shoe. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of different kinds of shoes that I run in. I have got a couple of other pairs that I've not spoken about, but they're the sort of basics to get you started. As I say, I will do another video on things like stability shoes, and I will do another video on things like, there's a new era of what they're calling super shoes, and super trainers are coming out. I'm waiting on a delivery